Hello, everybody, and welcome all to the SleepTech Talk, SleepTech podcast for all of you sleep techs out there with Robert Miller, Emerson Kerr, and me, Dr. Gerald George Moneykerode. And we can't thank you enough. By the way, just call me Jerry. And can't thank you enough for joining us. This podcast has been in the works for a while. I want to thank personally Robert for putting it together. I had this idea a while back, and as most of us have great ideas, we don't do anything with it. So the man of action, the man with the plan, Robert, thank you so much. He reached out to Emerson and me to say, hey guys, I got this idea. Why don't we do this? And this is a culmination of his hard work. And talking about culmination of his hard work, Robert, I want to say, let's start with you, because today's show is about what this podcast is, introducing each of us in our journey. So talking about our journey, Robert, tell us a little bit about how you got into sleep.
Yes, thank you, Jerry. And by the way, I may have thought about the idea around a podcast, but I had to go out and get the real talent and bring you guys in to participate in these episodes. And really the idea behind this is to take input and feedback from sleep techs who are a part of the industry and bring on guests who might be interesting and may have some topic and where they're an expert and can shed light on some additional information that maybe helps us all be better at what we do and taking care of patients who have sleep issues. So I appreciate it. I will start with I got into sleep medicine under I would say sort of unusual under an unusual circumstance. I was working in the operating room back in 1993 and just happened to make friends and acquaintances with the guy who was the department manager over. He had the bio lab, but he also had the sleep lab as part of his responsibility. He stopped me in the hall one day and said, "Hey, would you like to work 3 days a week?" And so really all it took to get me out of the operating room was $1 an hour more and to work 3 days a week as a full-time gig. So
3 days, that's basically a young person's ears, right? And I only got a 3-day work week. Come on, man.
You can't beat that.
It was working nights. I really had no exposure to working nights, and I thought, hey, how bad can it be to stay up all night and watch some people sleep? Little did I know, and I have to say it was really a blessing that my the physician who had just arrived at the hospital at the time to take over the medical director's role. She had just actually she had come from Stanford where she was trained, so she was under Dr. Dement. Little did I know that meant that we were going to be doing some, fairly high-end sleep procedures. We did esophageal manometry, and by the way, there really weren't very many, and I would say maybe zero digital systems that were available in 1993. So we're talking neon coding and grass polygraph. So it was every night. Oh, yeah.
Did a few of those esophageal monitors get a little messy for you?
It did, but I have to say we did the hospital really did a good job. They actually had the endoscopy department come down and train us on how to insert and it was interesting because they were able to get a carve out for us as sleep techs to administer topical lidocaine. So we were able to get the patients to numb their airway, and then we were able to put the tube in.
So you didn't have to torture them at all.
No, it really wasn't that bad. And what was funny though is that we practiced on each other the very first time. So we were all getting really friendly. Trying to get these things down the first time. But it really was. At the time it was really it made it more of a science for me because you came in the beginning of the night, you calibrated your polygraph, and you've got to do this esophageal insertion, and then you've also got to calibrate the esophageal manometry setup as well, so that you're able to get the appropriate signal. And we were actually able to successfully, even at one point, start doing esophageal manometry CPAP titration on paper.
Nice.
So it really was a science back at that time. And it was, again, just having such a great dedicated physician. She would come in the mornings and actually sit with us and go page by page and do instruction for us to help us, become better sleep techs and make sure that we were making clinical decisions that sort of lined up with what she was looking for. So that's how I started.
I got to stop you there, because when you said you went page by page, I got to ask you, how long did it take to score a study in those days?
Had to be forever.
Hours, because it was literally, you had a sheet that had these, you had to go in and put little tick marks, but then you also had to measure each apnea and then also document the correlating desaturation with each apneic event that took place. Not to mention that you're also counting limb movement.
Wow, man, that's wild.
Yeah,
Times have changed.
but it really was a science back then. Like I said, it really felt like a real science experiment every night on the patient. And although I have to tell you, when we moved into the digital world, it certainly felt like we had moved into the space age, and I much preferred scoring where it auto-tabulated everything for you. I mean, all of those things were great evolutions in sort of the polysomnography side. Essentially, that was so early on in the area that I lived in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, that there was essentially just a handful of us who were even involved in sleep medicine at the time, between all of the healthcare systems. And ultimately, I was able to sort of make my way into a management role, but it was actually at the competing sleep center across town. So I managed that program. We had phenomenal growth. Had an opportunity to leave there and become a national director of sleep services for a publicly traded company. So it was an interesting transition to go from this hospital-based service provider to, now I'm traveling all over the country and starting to engage with different physicians and also business models, because the company I was with at the time, we had all joint venture sleep labs they were joint ventures in conjunction with cardiologists. So they were unique business models. I learned a lot about what to do and what not to do in the way of a joint venture. But ultimately, I felt like, and really there was an opportunity for me to go to work for Respironics from that particular position. So I left there and then ended up working for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years with Respironics that became Philips during that time. That's where I met both of you guys.
Well, hey, what do you feel like led up to that, though, Robert? You had such a really diverse series of steps there that are so different from each other. Yeah. By the time you made it to the manufacturer, what do you feel like you were prepared for? Because you, as you know, we all three of us, it's a whole different mindset. What prepared you for that leap to being a clinical specialist?
Yeah, so I felt like, and there was a lot of steps I missed out, I left out there, I guess, too, that I should say. At one point during my career, when I was the manager of the Novant sleep program, we actually developed a sleep technology course. It was a 2-year program in conjunction with the local community college. So, I felt like that every step in my sort of journey led me. And again, I went through sales training and business development training and all of that while I was at Medcast, the national diagnostic provider. So it was almost like everything that I had been doing sort of led me up to, and then it was also just exposure to different people who were in the market. And at the time, I'd also started to get pretty heavily involved with the Carolina Sleep Society. So it was sort of, all things converging that, I'd gotten involved in educational activities that were on a bigger, a fairly large scale between North and South Carolina. I had developed a school program. So clinically, I felt like that, I was at a place that I could go out. But the business development side of what took place while I was with Medcast is sort of what prepared me to be able to sell once I got to Philips.
Excellent.
So with Philips, what led you to where you are today? I mean, from manufacturer to distributor.
Yeah, so I never ever intended. I loved my job when we were Respironics, and you guys know it was a great job, great company, great culture. There certainly it was a very different company a couple of years after Philips came in, and it's still a good company and still a great job. But I never intended on leaving. But I did a presentation for a lot of times my idea about how to sell to to another party is to be collaborative and to try to bring something to the table that helps them to grow their business. And so I do a presentation. I do a presentation for MedBridge Healthcare where I'm sort of outlining how they can grow their in-lab business through expanding their home sleep apnea testing service. Because this was just at the time when home sleep apnea testing was just becoming a part of and a fixture in what was going to become, a much greater part of sleep medicine overall. And so I do the presentation. A week later, the CEO calls me and makes me an offer that I can't say no to. So, and even that.
We're going to use your skills. We need your skills.
Yeah.
Godfather experience.
Well, and it was also, hey, let's pay you a few more dollars, and okay, sold. But it was interesting because I actually served in different capacities with MedBridge Healthcare, and I feel like that has now ultimately prepared me for where I am in my current role, and I'll get there. But with MedBridge Healthcare, I initially went in as a vice president of operations over the sleep diagnostic division. MedBridge at the time had both sleep diagnostics and DME, a DME division. And so, I had responsibility for the overall operations. And I think that we really made some significant changes that helped the business for MedBridge Healthcare. But a couple of years in at MedBridge, there was some leadership change at the CEO level. And the new CEO, he came in and he said, you know what? I've looked at some of the deals that have happened for this company over the last several years, and the ones that actually are the best deals for our company are the ones that you did. So you're moving into business development, Robert. So I spent 2 years in business development, and it was 2 of the most successful years in the history of the company from a business development perspective. So not just for myself, but John Mathias, who is a dear friend of mine and the chief development officer there, we had a couple of good years together. And then with COVID, it just sort of changed everything. And there was another leadership shakeup at the company. And so the company needed me to go back into operations. And I did that for about 9 months. And just for whatever reason, there seemed to be this opportunity for me to interview with Apria. I don't even remember exactly how it happened, but I interviewed for this position with Apria as the vice president of sleep business. And lo and behold, about 6 weeks later, I end up getting an offer to take the job. So that's where I am today. I'm the vice president of sleep business with Apria, one of the largest DME providers in the U.S. And what my role today is pretty unique because I am responsible and a part of commercial strategy for the company as it relates to the sleep business, but then also involved in business development and upstream marketing to help make sure that our sales force has the right tools and that we're focused on the right things to grow the business. That's the story.
That's a great story.
Fantastic. What I loved hearing about this, Robert, is the fact that how it was serendipitous to, like you said, literally bumped into somebody in the hallway at the hospital, and you started this new career. And I still remember when I was hooking up patients, the question was, where do I go from here? Where do I go next? And for most people, at least most of the techs that I've worked with, it's always been, how do I get to the daytime spot? And I've been reading the literature, reading the magazines and all that. And it's always talking about the daytime position, the scorer, the lab manager, that sort of thing. But you've shown us that there are so many other opportunities out there. You've done them all. I mean, you could be, the base of it all, the actual person that actually puts the leads on the patient, takes care of them.
Yeah.
The whole basic, the base of the entire thing of a essence of a SleepTech. But from there, there's so many other things that you were able to do: manage a lab, start a lab, business development, become a clinical specialist for a multinational organization, and now vice president of a company that distributes sleep. So what I find very interesting in what you said now is, hey, you stumbled into this or bumped into this, and and it's taken you so far. So that's really cool to hear. I also, I don't know if Emerson, you caught that, but how he got involved with the Carolina Sleep Society. I was privileged to join you last year, Robert, over there, and it was so nice to see such a vibrant society, and to hear that you took it from its infancy to where it is today. That's also awesome to show there's a huge, strong community in sleep in the Carolinas.
Absolutely. And Emerson has been a guest speaker over the years at the Carolina Sleep Society as well. So,
Asheville and Myrtle Beach got to do both of them.
That's right. That's right. We're going to delay that meeting a little bit this year, and it's actually going to occur in the fall because the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, the National Sleep Meeting is actually in Charlotte this year at the same time that we would typically have the Carolina Sleep Society meeting.
Hey, well, maybe we should do this podcast from as one of those sessions, and wouldn't that be something?
That'd be great.
That would be cool to do it from there. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's take a look here. Shall we? So let's call this our first episode, and for the next episode, folks. I know you guys are just waiting to hear how the other two got into sleep, but with that, we're going to close this episode and say thank you, Robert, for telling us your story. We sincerely appreciate that, and thanks, Emerson, and. Jerry, I just want to, from Jerry and myself, I want to say thank you all for joining us. Let us know in the comments, direct message, wherever you see it on social media. Let us know what you want to hear, any suggestions on guests about what you want to see in the future. We look forward to hearing from you. With that, we say thank you so much and have a good night.